that year, not the submarine fleet, in naval history. Same people, same equipment. It's not the people, it's the environment. It's always the environment. The people are fine. It's always the environment. And this is what leadership is. One of the things Marquet realizes in most organizations, the people at the top have all of the authority, but none of the information. And the people who are actually performing the jobs have all the information, but none of the authority. And in most organizations, they try to get the information up. No, push the authority down. This is what creates great organizations. And what that does is it makes us feel that our work and our lives have value. We want to be given the opportunity to make mistakes. We want to be given the opportunity to work hard and have responsibility. It feels good to work hard, to have responsibility for something. If somebody else, we've all had the experience, sometimes junior, sometimes senior in our jobs. I can remember in my own career, I used to have a boss who did the opposite. And I would write something, and she would cover it in red pen and tell me to make her changes. And so I'd go make her changes. I'd come back, and she'd cover it in red pen and tell me to make her changes. And at some point, I stopped caring about the quality of my first draft because I knew she was just going to change it all to whatever she wanted anyway. No longer felt valuable or valued. As opposed to telling me the macro issues she had. This is not clear. I know what you're trying to say, but it doesn't come across. Try again. Responsibility. Accountability. I remember the first time that somebody gave me accountability. I had to produce something that I had to send out to the client. The norm was to show it to my boss before it went out to the client. Except this time, he decided to leave early. And I said, well, do you want me to email it to you before it goes out? He goes, no. Good night. Make sure it goes out tonight. Bye. Now, I knew what good was, and I knew what had to be done, and guess what? It was fine. And I worked hard. I wanted to do it right. One of the things great leaders do is they allow us to try and fail. And one of the things Marquet talks about is the importance of training, the importance of practice, and the importance of small projects. Because you can punch a hole in the side of the ship above the waterline. It costs some money, whatever. But you do that over and over again so that you don't punch a hole in the side of the ship below the waterline. In training, metrics are supposed to go down. Because you want people to try hard and fail and find out where the line is. In combat training, you want them to get shot. Because you want them to find where getting shot happens. You don't want to outscore everybody else in training. It's ridiculous, right? This is the time to push the limits. Or give people little projects that at the worst, think about what we do for a living, right? Nobody here is looking for a cure for cancer or working in an ER. The worst thing we can do, the absolute worst, is lose a multi-billion-dollar corporation some money. And not enough that will get noticed. And if it is enough to get noticed, it won't put you out of business. Like seriously, death and destruction and Armageddon are nowhere to be seen. That's the worst. And so when we have leaders that understand that and allow us to try and fail, and understand that if we screw it up, it's okay, the ship's not going to sink, now try again. Let's sit down and talk about maybe what you would like to do differently next time. I want you to learn. I want you to try again. Kind of like what we do with our kids. And that's the final point. The closest analogy I can give to you about what leadership is parenting. Think about what makes a great parent. You know? First of all, not having kids is a better life. You get a bigger house, you take nicer vacations, you can get the car you want, not the car you have to get, right? Much more sleep, right? Yet we choose, for some reason, to have children. We choose to make these sacrifices because in time, it's kind of worth it to see this little thing grow up and make something of themselves that we got to look after. It's kind of worth it. The problem with leadership, the problem with parenting, is they're both like exercise. Is they cannot be measured in small, discrete chunks. I can give you a compelling presentation about the importance of exercise, and it'll change your life and improve the quality of your life and let you live longer. And you'll believe me, and you'll go to the gym, and you'll come back, and you'll look in the mirror, and you will see nothing. But you go the next day, and you come back, and you look in the mirror, and you will see nothing. And worse, you're in pain. And so you have no metrics to show there's any value to anything I've told you, so you stop. But if you can stick with it, After 3 months, you look at an old picture of yourself, you're like, I can't believe I ever looked like that. I can't believe it. Leadership and parenting the same. You have no idea if you're being a good parent on a daily basis. None. In fact, sometimes, you're a bad parent.
Every time.
But you kind of have a sense of what it should be, and you stick with it, and there are these little glimmers that you get that make you proud that you're kind of doing the right thing, that the sacrifice is worth it, like the little things that the kids do, but you won't actually see a return on your investment for like 30 years. More. You know, some of our parents are still waiting for us. 30. Right? Leadership is the same.
Still begging for Patreon.
I have no way of measuring that you're being a good leader on a daily basis. Even the best leaders are sometimes terrible leaders on a daily basis. There's no good metric. The problem is it's very hard to measure in short, discrete packets, but it's very easy to measure over distance, over time. That's the problem. Good leadership is obvious. You measured in things like churn. You know, what's the average lifespan of your employees? I love reading all these reports that say, well, the trend is that people are spending less and less time at their jobs now, and maybe it's because they're looking for more adventure. No, it's because they don't want to. Why do they stick around? There's no loyalty. It's not a good trend. It's a symptom. Parenting. Think about what a great parent is. A great parent is willing to sacrifice, give of themselves, you know, discipline when necessary, provide opportunities, provide education. Also, this young little thing can grow up and achieve more than they thought they ever could for themselves. What's a great leader? Somebody who's willing to sacrifice and give of themselves and provide opportunities, education, discipline when necessary. Sometimes help them up, sometimes make them get up themselves, so they'll grow up and build confidence and achieve things I couldn't even achieve for myself. Same thing. There's a photograph in the New York Times a bunch of months ago. Do you remember those shootings in Kenya? And the amazing thing was there was a photographer who was on the scene. Usually we see the aftermath, right? And this particular one, there was a photographer in the mall. And so we got to see pictures of what was going on. And there's one photograph, you can look it up, it's online. There's one photo, Taylor Hicks is the photographer's name, not the same Taylor Hicks. There's a photograph of a mother lying on top of her child. Okay, now think about that. At the sound of a gun, it's a mother's instinct to throw herself onto her child, potentially risking her own life to ensure that the life of this young, precious thing will survive her. Now, on other days, mom gets to do what mom says because I'm the mom. And sometimes mom takes the liberties and enjoys the liberties of being the leader and being the one in charge. But when it matters, when the child's life, survival are at stake, there's no question what a good mother does. They throw themselves on top of their child, even with personal sacrifice. That's called leadership. That's what our leaders do. They can enjoy the trappings, enjoy the perks, enjoy the parking spaces, enjoy the money. Nobody says you have to give them up. In fact, we would be upset if you gave them up because it's our pleasure to do these things for you. You know, can you imagine if Steven Spielberg, made him a cup of tea? I can make my own cup. It actually would feel bad. Like we want to do these things. It brings us joy to do these things. Just like it brings our kids joy to make us proud, and it gives us joy to make our leaders proud. We want to do right by them.
Feel better about the fact she gets it.
But they do so with the knowledge that they would sacrifice themselves for us. Back in the Marine Corps, this idea of leadership is viewed as a responsibility, not as a rank. You will never hear these words spoken in the Marines. You will never hear the words, I am a leader. I believe I have what it takes to be a leader. I aspire to be a leader. Those words do not exist. Here are the words they speak. I am a leader of Marines. I believe I have what it takes to be a leader of Marines. I aspire to be a good leader of Marines. In their own vernacular, they view leadership as a responsibility to another human being and not a rank to be attained. It's the same for us. You're not a leader. You're a leader of people. And to say I'm a leader is false. I'm a leader of people. I aspire to be a leader of people. I believe I have what it takes to be a leader of people. I want to be the best leader of people I can possibly be. And we are reminded every time we speak the word that our responsibility is to another person. Like the word parent. I am a parent. Inherent in that word is that there's a child. You can't call yourself a parent without a child. I'm a parent of a child. It comes with certain responsibilities inherent, as does leadership. And so this manifests in some funny ways in the Marine Corps. If you go to any chow hall anywhere in the world, on any Marine base, what you will see is they will line up in rank order during chow time. Most junior man eats first, most senior man eats last. It is not in any rule book, and no one tells them they have to. It happens organically because of the way they simply view the responsibility of leadership. That I, as the leader, like a parent, would let my child eat before I eat. That's just what we do. And so that's one of the ways it shows up. I was told a true story. I was told a story of a Marine officer who was deployed, and they were eating with the group, and that officer made sure that his men ate first, as is the custom in the Marine Corps. And they ran out of food. The officer didn't get to eat. So when they went out back into the field, all of his men brought him some of their food so that he may eat. This is what happens. When we as leaders commit to the safety of our people will give us their blood, sweat, and tears, and they will make their own sacrifices to ensure that we are kept safe and to ensure that our visions are advanced. We cannot sit here with our arms folded and simply complain that our leadership doesn't look after us, that our leadership doesn't get it, that they would sooner sacrifice us to save the numbers and they would never sacrifice the numbers to save us, that they listen to Wall Street, they don't put people first, they claim they drive innovation, but they're not creating an environment that would create innovation. We cannot complain because we must be the leaders we wish we had. We have a person to the left of us, and we have a person to the right of us that we can take responsibility for. Sure, you don't love your job, but do they? Are you committing yourself to ensuring that they feel happy, that they feel safe, that they have the job they love, that they feel like they're learning, that they